everyone, it's Cindy from Studioloo. So today we're looking at Hine Raumati, the Lady of Summer in Maori mythology. I am going to be working with this piece of paper today, which is from, again, one of those books that old salons used to have, where you could go ahead and pick out a hairstyle and ask them to cut your hair into the style. So I'm just going to cut out this lovely woman who I had left over from a page from earlier in this week when we were depicting another lovely goddess. So let me tell you a little bit about Hine Raumati. So as I mentioned, she is from Maori mythology, and today I'm going to show you how to make this shaker card that just pays homage to her. She's really, really cool. There's not a lot of information about her, but I wanted to try to cover a few of those types of myths where maybe you've never heard of her. And, I think I've done that so far with the other myths that I've looked at. So she's one of the two wives of Tamanui Tora, the sun god, and she's the other wife is Hine Tukuria, the Lady of Winters. So she, with her husband, has had a son named Tanerore, the inventor of the Haka dance, which you may or may not be familiar with. It's this really cool Maori tradition that, like, they do this really, it looks like a very powerful dance, and it's often done during sports events. You can look up more on the haka. I won't go too deeply into it. So basically, the story of Hine Raumati is told often around the campfire when people are talking about Tamanui Tora, the sun who makes his journey rising in the northeastern sky in the winter through to the southeastern sky in the summer and back again. So Tamanui Tora would split part of the year between his beautiful wives, Hine Takura, and the winter maid, and Hine Raumati, who we're looking at today, the summer maid. So there's a lot of those kind of mythologies where, like, one goddess or one person kind of represents a season, and when they're present, that season happens, and when they're absent, the season changes. So um, Hine Takoria and Hine Raumati live in two very different domains on Earth. Hine Takoria dwells out in the ocean and is connected to the foods of the sea, while Hine Raumati resides on land and supports all the various foods that grow on land. So the story of Tamanui Tora and his two wives is how the Maori in legend understand the path of the sun that it takes in the sky and the resulting changing seasons. It's during the summer solstice that Tamanui Tora sits with Hine Raumati, but from this day, he will begin to slowly make his way back to Hine Takura in the north, and the days will get shorter and the nights will grow longer. So that is essentially the basis of the tale, or the purpose in Maori mythology, of our lovely our lovely lady here. So let me tell you a little bit what I've done as I've been talking about this. So I'm again using some very old 1920 scrapbook paper, and I've just cut out and shaded the woman's character, and I'm now sizing in this bag. This is this packaging that I received from some stamps, I think, and I'm just checking the size to make sure that that piece of paper will fit inside of there, because we're going to use that as kind of the cover film on the shaker card. So I'm now looking for something that's nice and summery and sparkly, and would fit the presence of uh, on her head, like the would make her really interesting and bright to look at. Because I think that Hine Raumati should be all things kind of sunshine and summer harvest. So this is just a sequined piece of fabric with this bright orange flower. You could use paper here, or you could use fabric. You could use a flower or just some different bright orangey and yellow, kind of fabric to brighten this whole thing up. So I'll just stick that on eventually. I'm just sort of checking the size, and I think that looks very cute, kind of cradled on her head. And then I'll grab another piece for the bottom just to frame the image in a little bit. We're just trying to bring some warm colors into this because we're looking, to tell a story. So just cutting this all out here. And when I was looking up the Maori legends, there's so many beautiful Maori myths and tales. It's a culture that's just very full of beautiful mythology and lots of nice lessons in like morality and things like that. So I'm just using some 3-in-1 glue to glue down the fabric. My glue bottle is being its typical difficult self. I have to fill up my my little glue bottle, so I'm going with the big nozzle today and just taking my chances not to use too much glue. Set this glue aside. And now is kind of the more challenging sort of point where I have to draw the facial markings. I'm using a Micron 05 pen to do this. So these are like facial tattoos or facial markings that are traditional to Maori people. It is an outline to the lips. This is how Hine Raumati has been depicted in many legends. And what I noticed in drawing these linear shapes is that often the lines are in parallels of 2 and 3, and they have a lot of straight lines, but also a lot of kind of curved lines that look a little bit almost like an ocean wave. So this part for me is a little bit tricky. I'm just kind of using a bit of a reference from another depiction that I found. If you see me kind of reaching off to the side there, I'm just looking at my picture on my phone of how women who have depicted this character will draw the lines on their face. And whenever you're doing a little bit of hand drawing, it can be a little daunting, right? Especially when you're editing an image, but I say do it anyways. It's fun and it's good practice. One thing with these kind of drawings and this kind of shaping is you're looking for a lot of symmetry, and I had thought about doing kind of a Rorschach type way of painting where I would just paint one side, fold it in half and pull it apart, and it would give me the negative image. But I didn't want to bend the photo, and I didn't want to glue it down on top because it would be too bulky. And then I realized that like this isn't about creating some super masterpiece of exact lines. We're just having fun and making ephemera here. Come on. And what we're really trying to do is just tell the beautiful story of this character. And I feel like by the end of this, it's going to be very nice to hold together all of these powerful figures together and just see how you can depict characters. I think it's nice to be able to do some storytelling about characters in your journals. I've really been enjoying doing that a lot lately, and this is kind of a new and different way for me to do that. So I'm just kind of looking at my lines and deciding what else I want to do. And I think I'd like to draw some lines that feel a little bit like the sun, but not in a exact way, maybe a little bit more abstract. And I'm going with the use of multiple parallel lines, as I'm seeing be depicted in a lot of Maori legends and illustrations by Maori artists. If you ever are looking for something to find inspiration, definitely look into Maori art. It has its own aesthetic that's actually very, very intriguing. So now I want to bring some gold into this, into the sunshine. I've got some water in a dish just off camera here. This is an art crayon from Marabou. It's a watercolor crayon. So the lines might look a little bit messy and linear right now, but once I smudge it with a little bit of water on my finger, the whole thing will balance out and even out. And it's just going to warm the image up and kind of give more of a background or an outline to her as a figure. So I'll just get some water off camera and kind of give that a little bit of a spread around in a moment. And so now another thing that's been used to depict this character is feathers. She always has feathers in her hair. So I've got these little, I believe these are quail feathers that I collected a long time ago, and I keep them in this bag with some other feathers. And so I'm just going to tuck them. The glue is still a little bit wet under there, so I'm just going to tuck them right under that applique that I've glued on. It's a nice way to also be able to use up some feathers. And just all these little fluffies. These particular feathers are so fluffy. I was trying to decide if I should add another one, but I think I might be okay. So I'll just grab these and put them away. And I think I really enjoy the seriousness to the look on her face, because I feel like in so many of these stories, the seasons are predicted by moods. And for both of these two wives, I'm sure that they don't appreciate having to share the sun god back and forth, and only spend a bit of time with him. And I'm sure that that's very much why they only bring out their season when he's present. Just now smoothing that paint a little bit. Then I'm just going to halo around her hair a little to just take away that gray background that is in where like her hair kind of lightens. Just make it more cohesive along the edges. More feather fluffies, just getting them out of the way. And now I'm going to go in with my Micron 5 pen again and just do some of the same types of line work, but in her hair, around the curls in her hair, and just kind of bring together the overall like drawn linear elements so that the piece feels like it's more cohesive, if for lack of a better, more unique term. So just working in those same parallel lines. I like that framing around the face. Then I'll do the same at the bottom, just add a little bit of parallel lines. Just grabbing a few supplies here to get onto the next step. It's funny to do a voiceover and watch yourself with these gaps. You're thinking, hurry up. But I'm coming. I'm getting the giant glitter now to create the sort of raindrop type sparklies that are going to go in here, because I'm thinking about harvest and summer, and it will be the rain that brings the harvest. So she's the sun, the sunshine and or the sun god is the sunshine, but she has to, you know, bring the whole season together. So there's got to be some rain. So I show you there's a little hole in that bag, as you usually see in those little cello bags that you get. So I'm putting that on the back because I don't want the glitter to escape from it. And now I'm just kind of measuring how that fits in there, and I'm going to stitch around the edges, the bottom 3 edges. So now you'll see I've come back, I've stitched around in 2 parallel lines, just like the lines I was using when I was drawing. So they're there, and now I'm going to back the back with more of that same scrapbook paper. I've just kind of sized it there, and I'm going to use some art glitter glue to just glue it down. And my art glitter glue bottle is obviously also clogged because I have been lax in refilling it. Always fighting glue bottles. Okay, here we go. Just doing the usual glue swirl here. And we'll stick that down. And that covers up that hole on the back as well. And it will give you a nice space to write on paper rather than on the cellophane. So now we have our space to put our giant glitter. I'm always very careful how I open this because I don't want it to explode on my desk. And get the bag open and pouring it on in there. Probably about, like, I don't know, a half a teaspoon or so. Not quite, a quarter of a teaspoon. You just want enough to be able to shake around. And I was thinking about maybe folding that down, but then I realized, you know, it's probably better if I just stitch it and cut it off. I would have folded it down if I did the paper covering on the back over the top flat, but I didn't. So I've just gone to the top there and done another 2 parallel lines of stitching. So now the whole thing is sealed and we can shake it up. So that is Hine Raumati. And thank you for hanging out with me. And now it's time to clean up this desk. And I will be back again tomorrow for another fun piece.